A lot of what I wanted to go over with you today, just where people are at today. I think, there's the word that I use is there's a softening going on. Now listen, ACLs don't blow because you're soft.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes.
But because you're soft, your ACL can blow because you don't do the things
Yes.
that you need to be doing in order to toughen and strengthen the overall, integrity of your body and your structure.
Yeah, I agree.
So when you put all that together, there's a problem.
I agree. And I just feel bad. You've seen good kids, get hurt. And then, some are giving up on their passion because they just don't want to go through it again. They're afraid that might get hurt again. So.
Yeah. And then, it's like living life or playing with hesitation. That doesn't work.
No, never does and never will.
Yeah. So you get a lot of, and it sort of feeds itself. It's like this monster that feeds itself where it's, I got hurt. I don't want to get hurt again. I don't want to push myself. And because I don't want to push myself and I don't want to get hurt again, I play at a lesser gear or I commit even less than I did originally, which actually puts myself in a greater deficit.
I agree. 100%.
So what do you think what do we do about it?
I think one of the things, and, Group and I have been looking at this, they've been looking at it longer than I've got in about a year ago, but looking at how we move. And I think, our sedentary lifestyle, I know we talked about it and stuff like that. I know you heard me speak on this. I think we just sit as a society way too much than we did before.
Right.
Everything's much more. I mean, even look, my kids, came March, April, and May, all the schools are shut down. These kids now are just sitting at home. I mean, I know kids that I saw in March. I saw them again in June when stuff opened back up. I thought it was a different kid. I mean, how much weight they put on and things like that. And I just don't think kids move as much. I think they play one sport. And I'm okay with playing one sport if you get outside and maybe do pickup and do other things. I don't have a problem, but I think the one sport's become like a job to these kids and the parent. Where you're playing, that one sport, you might play on 2 or 3 different teams. Like I have kids that play soccer. They're on 3 different teams in the fall season. Wow. Every weekend they have 3 or 4 games minimal because of tournaments, because of showcases, this, and then they have practice every day of the week. And I'm like, guys, it's just pounding and pounding and pounding. The free play isn't there. Just going outside and just tag. I mean, this is the greatest game ever was tag.
Move left, move right, forward, back, start, stop.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get faster, you want to get better as an athlete, go play tag with a bunch of neighbors, and learn how to juke and cut and those kind of things. So I think it's a bunch of different things that are going on. I think the movement of the human body is definitely starting to change, not in a good way. We're not moving properly. We're not doing these things right. And it's because, I have kids that come in and tell me, I have some low back pain. I'm like, you have low back pain? I said, you're 14 years old. What the hell do you have low back pain? Well, here their hamstrings are tight or their psoas is tight. All these kind of things because they sit so much. And I'm just like, the only activity they get there is, hour and a half practices a day.
It's sort of like that old, I'm sure you've seen it, the evolution of mankind, where they show almost as like a monkey and then all of a sudden standing up tall with like a spear. And now like at the end, they're at the computer all folded over again.
Yeah. And that's what, you're exactly right. That's what I think we are becoming again but we're coming at a faster rate than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, so just go back 19 years ago, when I got into therapy and this, this part of the business, if I saw a kid that was in high school that had an ACL tear, it was odd. I mean, it just didn't tear him. Now, it's an everyday thing. Like, I think over the last 4 or 5 years, I think I've treated to get them back to play, after rehab, 150 ACL athletes.
Wow.
And I'm not a big area. This isn't like New York City or Philadelphia. This is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Right.
It's not a big area. To have that many is, astronomical. I mean, just look at the NFL this year. I mean, how many are there now? 30-some through 5 weeks or something?
It's wild. I mean, but again, injuries across just all the sports, they just keep going. They seem to be going up and up and up and up. And, what I always, I guess, smirk at is, it seems as if like we have all these methods, right? And all these new ways of doing things and all these modalities that we're using, right? But are they effective? I think that's the biggest question. Really, are they effective?
Yeah, I'm with you. You look at, everybody talks about, you have to go into LeBron James, all this stuff that he says he puts like $1.5 million into like recovery. And I'm looking at him like, I wonder what Michael Jordan did. Look back. I always want to compare the two. Michael Jordan, at least what I remember, would drink a beer, smoke a cigar, and go play 18 holes of golf, and then go drop 49 that night on the Knicks or whoever, whoever is playing. How did he recover better and didn't need all this stuff? I mean, Jordan played just as many games and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering, are we making, because all this advanced technology, are we actually making it better? Or are we actually destroying the body at a faster rate?
I think there's a lot of destruction happening. Just, there's obviously, because behind all of it is a business model.
Yes.
And what I've learned just in life is business models don't care about the people oftentimes. Models like yours obviously do. But, when you're talking about big business that's looking for a multiple on their investment, they're less concerned with, the end user. They just want the end user to keep using. And, even in a field like strength and conditioning, performance, there's more experts and gurus now than ever. There's more new tools now than ever. There's more protocols now than ever. There's been a lot of shit talked over the years about how much we know and how good we are and how much we've advanced. Yet, when you actually look at the stats and the numbers, have we really?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I mean, all this stuff is out there, all this, training tools and, all these things, all these gadgets that you see, you got to get this because like the Vertimax, it's going to increase your vertical and all this kind of stuff, and not knocking one product.
Right.
I think how far have we really come? I mean, I think you might even seen the thing. Yeah, I think it was one of the TED Talks it was on, I think it was Epstein or something was his last name, David Epstein or something. And he was talking about how fast Usain Bolt was. And then he compared him, I think it was Carl Lewis. It might have been Jesse Owens, Carl Lewis, one of the two. And he talked about top end speed.
Right.
And they both had the same top end speed. Usain Bolt just held it longer than here. But did he hold it longer because of the new technology in the tracks, in the feet, the foot equipment? Because if you go back to Jesse Owens, he ran on cinders. We all know when you're striking the ground on cinders, force is being dissipated out. It's not coming back up. These guys have these rubber tracks that goes down and comes right back. It makes it a little bit easier. Yeah. So are we really faster? I would be a good debate. I mean, you have to go look at also the technology that we have now. Maybe that's what made us better. Or maybe that's what we think. I mean, imagine if Jordan, that era, even before that, lifted weights like LeBron James this era does. You know what I mean? Would they have been as good? We're always trying to compare other eras, and you can't do it because the technology and those kind of things are just different.
Yeah, the times are different. So it's not like you said, it's not a fair comparison.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but the one thing I think that is can be, we'll say, a fair comparison is, when you think about the headspace of players of yesterday versus players today, there was definitely more, I believe, of just guts, nuts, and competitiveness that was seen amongst, those players that were Jordan-esque or Larry Bird-esque or, you name it. There was a grit that was there that I don't quite see today in the same way. Yeah,
I'd have to agree. I think the money has definitely changed it. The social media, these kids they'll market themselves, and
I'm a brand.
I mean, a lot of those guys you hear back in the 70s with the Steelers teams, because I'm from, Pennsylvania, a lot of those guys had jobs in the off season.
Yeah.
They played football and they had to go work. These guys don't have to work. I mean, their job is, whatever career they're in. So I agree. I see that they don't have to quite put that in like the old guys. They just played it because they wanted to play. That's just what I
agree with you. I saw it for the first time, up in Westchester in New York. These are wealthier areas, the suburbs of New York City, wealthier areas. And I saw it for the first time that parents, would almost treat their adolescent child, an up and coming child, as if they were a pro already, and the athlete would sort of begin to believe that they were, which again, it's great to believe, but they would be focused on their brand and they would be focused on, I'm exclusive to this sport and this is how I do it. And they started to really gain a lot of really characteristics that I didn't find to be too suiting for a player that was going to go to the next level.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I see it, and I see it a little bit more now. Almost living through like their kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, you trained them. I mean, hell, you were at the top level, with the Yankees. So what it takes to get to that point. You know what I mean? You were some of the best players to ever play the game of baseball. You were there at that time. how many kids at that age really know that they're going to be that great? Yes, you work towards it, but even if they don't get there, they learn, hopefully they learn valuable life lessons. I think that's what we're missing. We're missing the valuable life lessons
Yeah.
that go with sports. We treat sports as its own profession, where it should be like a bridge to get us to what we're going to do later in life.
Well, I think the key word, right, would be development. It's our job as coaches to develop talent.
Yes.
And in developing talent, it's a tedious process. It's a long process. It's a very, committed process from the coach and the athlete.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And I think some people try to rush that.
Yeah.
To jump in. Hey, my 8-year-old's, going to be playing on Sundays, and he's not talking about Pop Warner Sundays. He's talking about the NFL on Sundays. I'm like, dude, he's 8 years old.
Yeah.
Let him develop. He might not even like football in 2 years. He might like something else, and that's fine. Let him live his life. And I think that's sometimes what we forget. Everybody wants that college scholarship. Well, there's only so many out there, and, trying to rush that process, maybe we're hurting them that way too. We're trying to build them up and treat them like pros, not taking the time to develop the basic fundamentals, the skills, which I talk about all the time. Boom. And then maybe that's leading us to, because I see more kids spend more money on specialized skills. And the specialized skills I talk about is they have a basketball coach, a baseball coach, tell them how to throw it, and they're like 10, 11, 12 years old. I'm like, well, you haven't even learned how to run right. You're running
crazy, right?
Yeah. So, you see it. I know you dealt with it too.
Well, Brix, for me, where I started to see some of the biggest changes, like when, we used to say, like in baseball, when the kids started to wear uniforms at the youth level that were as nice as the pro level, that was a flag on the field. Next was when organizations started to invest in improving their minor league facilities and really improving the conditions of the minor leagues. And here's what I'm saying. It's great that these players now have a nice minor league setup.
Yes.
But you don't want to get comfortable in the minor leagues.
Yes.
Minor leagues should be hell.
Yes.
It should be every day you get there, you say, this sucks, and I need to get out of here.
Yes.
So when you start to build comfort in a situation that's not meant to be comfortable, and you're training comfort when they're next level, getting to the pros, there's no comfort. You're doing a complete disservice to the athlete. And I think you see this in so many different arenas today.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I go to some of these college locker rooms and these bigger schools like Penn State's in my area. I've been up there. Dude, you should see these places. Holy beast. They look like, like $1 million lounges, like some CEO, who, is making 40, 50 million dollars, has his company and he has that kind of lounge. I'm like, this is absolutely, crazy. The amount of stuff they have in the weight rooms and I think Clemson, it was trying to compete, with Oregon out there with their facility. You should see Clemson's new facility. It's not like 3 or 4 years old, but it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I'm just like you said, have we made it so comfortable that maybe we were actually making it, we're destroying some of these kids. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel bad.
I think we see, again, I haven't worked in sports and work in sports still, but also, entering into the business world, you see the same thing. There's no fight. Yeah. It's about, I was talking to somebody last week. I said, it seems like there's just sort of emotional neutrality. I was talking to Gabby Reese yesterday, and I mentioned emotional neutrality. It's like everybody's neutral. Yep. And that raw emotion sometimes towards somebody or something is oftentimes what's going to move you forward.
Yes. Yeah. And I know you haven't. I know you talked about being a leader and all that kind of, being a champion and stuff. I don't see it. And I probably stopped to see it probably about 6 years ago. There's no leadership in the sense of the kids getting on each other. It's almost like they don't want to get on somebody because, hey, I might hurt his feelings. Like when I played, listen, those older guys, if we did something wrong, they got on us. Now, when we stepped off the field or the court, guess what? It was over. It was done. We moved on and we were fine. It seems like now nobody does that anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I don't get it, guys. I can't come out in the court to play with you. The coach can't come out. He can help you, but it's on you to actually get on each other, inspire them, get them going. But it's just not, I just don't see it anymore.
Yeah. So as, as a coach, I always think about it from this standpoint. how do we develop that
Yeah.
today? Because, if we know that, there's speed, there's strength, there's power, there's talent, there's skill acquisition, super important, obviously.
Yep.
But what do we do to train sort of that guts and grit and nuts factor?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's one of the things that has perplexed me, because you know what I mean. I came up when I had nothing. I
Yeah.
had 3 brothers I grew up with. We didn't have much as a family. Both my parents had to work just to put food on the table, as most people back in the day did.
Yeah.
So I'm not making myself out to be anything different, but we had to make those kind of things. I remember playing on the playgrounds. I don't know if many kids play the street ball like we used to play. I remember waiting. If you lost the game, you're waiting 2 hours to get back on. So
Yeah.
you don't want to lose.
Yep.
And you had to survive for everything. There's no fouls. You know what I mean? You get knocked down, you get beat up, you get back up and the guy goes, all right, was that a foul? And you're like, no, man, you're bleeding, but you're not going to call foul on an older guy. It might beat you up later on. So I don't know if we have that anymore. You know what I mean? I think that's what we need to bring back in a different realm, but I think we need to bring that back with the kids.
I think that should be, I think that's got to be a part of coaching.
Yes.
I really do. For lack of language, I just see a lot of pussy coaches out there too that are afraid to challenge their teams. It's as if the team is working for them.
Yes.
Or they're working for the team. Yeah. And the team is telling the coach what to do, how to do it. And there's just so much external really input that it's dangerous. And I'm going to use an example. I want to say it was the coach at Oklahoma this year. He's, with his family wearing a shirt of his choice. And the next thing you know, his team's pissed. The college is pissed, and he's apologizing for a T-shirt that he's wearing. Yeah. Now, I'm just using that as an example. I'm not getting, going down the political road. But what I am saying is it just is an illustration of there is really, for me, a total lack of leadership. Yep. And just that raw, passionate coaching where people are willing to coach with their heart and their values and their character, and they're even willing to pay a price.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you see that, and I think I see what else I see is good coaches that are done. They're retiring because they don't want to put up with the bull crap anymore.
Yep.
Your very, very good coaches that had a lot of that are like, dude, I'm not putting up with this. You know what I mean? Because their hands are tied from whatever administration. The parents are always on them. I always tell people, because people are like, are you ever going to coach? I say, no. I said it would be holy war between me and the coaches or whoever. And I'm not trying to be mean, but there's a separation. You bring your kids to me so I can, help advance them. Like you said earlier, develop them. You know what I mean? I don't go to your job to try to develop you. Yeah. I don't tell you how to do your job. So don't tell me how to do mine. Just sit back. If you don't like what I do, then,
go somewhere else.
Next coach. Yeah. But for some reason we have to get on everybody and think Johnny's the greatest thing since sliced bread, even though Johnny can't walk and talk at the same time, but he's supposed to be my superstar. And I think we've blurred the lines, and I think the lines have to go back to the separation, and let the coach do what he did. My parents were always like, listen, you don't like what the coach says, go ask him what you need to do to get better. Don't complain. Ask him what you need to do to get on the playing field. My father always said, I'm not stepping in. I'm not stepping in. Yeah. That's your job. And I'm like 12 years old. It's like, that's your job. You take care of it.
What did that teach you, right? It taught you to take control, to play offense, to use your voice to express yourself.
Yes.
How many – you got to tell me. I've seen this in New York. I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania, but I can't tell you how many parents are call on behalf of their children. and by children, I mean 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, college kids.
Yeah, I know.
Fundamental problem.
Yeah, it's huge. And I talk to some of the kids, that play with some of those kids that do that stuff. And I'm just like, wow, I just shake my head. I'm just like, you guys are never going to grow up. I mean, you're going to be living in the basement till you're 40. Yeah. That's what we don't want. We don't want that as a society. We want them to be able to move on and grow. You know what I mean? And like I said, there's a way to approach a coach and a way not to approach a coach. I'm not saying you go up and say, hey, coach, you suck. Boom, boom, boom. But go up and ask him, hey, coach, what can I do to get on that field? And it's a very simple thing. If he's a good coach, he will tell you, hey, listen, you lack this, 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 and this. It might be hard to hear, but at least he's being honest with you. If he's sugar coach, say, oh, you're doing everything right, blah, 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 then he's probably not a good coach. Yeah. Then you find somebody else, and that's okay. At least you know. But I think that's the kind of things, like you said, it does happen here in Pennsylvania. You still got some old, because I'm not too far away from the because my dad's a coal guy, up in the coal regions here. So you still got some of them people that are like, listen, dude, you got to do it on your own.
Yeah.
So you still have some of that. But I do see it in some other areas where, I work with some of the teams. Definitely. You know what I mean? Mom and dad are calling me and saying this. And I'm like, your son's 16 years old, dude. He can just pick up the phone and, if you have to text me, call me, whatever. I don't know why you're calling me. So I still see it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Something I mention a lot is there's more leadership books out there now than ever. And I always say to people, listen, you should question the source, right? Yeah. So it's great that there's all these theories on leadership, but I believe so many of them are exactly that. Yeah. Theories, and they're classroom-based leadership teachings. Yes. But what these kids, when you're in the trenches with kids, when you're in the trenches with people today, just people, yeah, you see so many leadership-based shortcomings that are out there. So how could there be more knowledge than ever on a topic and a subject, and more people struggling as it relates to leadership today than ever? Yeah. It's bizarre.
I agree. I think it's like I think we're not putting in the practice early enough when the kids are younger, putting them into leadership positions. If something's not right, somebody's there to fix it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Instead of letting people fail. It's this James Harrison quote from years ago. His kids got the participation trophy and he threw them out. And everybody made a big deal of that. Dude, 20 years ago, nobody got a participation trophy. You know what I mean? You just went and played. If you won, the top team, the top one or two teams got trophies or medals, or that's it. That was it. Everybody else was just like, all right, well, we didn't win. We got to try harder next time. But now it's like, okay, well, we got to make everybody feel good. And I think that's where you lost some of the leadership, because there's no effort in trying. Well, if I get a medal to a kid, that's that dopamine effect. Hey, I'm excited. Yeah. Where's the passion at? I hated losing. You know what I mean?
And I think that's it. I think there's a lack of passion, and there's also, I think, a lack of pursuit to win and pursuit of excellence. Because if you've already won, oh, that was fun. Yeah. But to really win and to outdo yourself, I mean, you have to dig deep at times, and I believe that happens and can only happen. This is just my thought. I'd love to hear yours. Is when you experience the opposite, which is failure, and like ugly, dirty, got my butt kicked failure. Yeah. And nobody was there to protect me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Makes you want to win.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. The failures that I experienced in life, even, in sports and also, in business, you were probably the same, taught me more, 1,000 times more than I ever did with all my successes. I said, I was fortunate, my high school basketball team and soccer team were phenomenal. We all, we won a lot of games, a hell of a lot more than we ever lost. When I got to college, though, it was the exact opposite. I mean, we lost 4 games. I mean, I'll never forget. I tell the kids a story now. There was a game. We were playing one of the top teams in the country in Division III. They were, ranked number 4 in the country or something. We were like one of the worst teams. And honestly, I think we lost by 60-some points, and that's not a joke. And there was a 10-minute stretch I remember in the first half where Coach pulled out 4 of the starters. He left me in with the, 4 backups. And we did not get the ball past half court. That was a rude awakening, because this is a basketball game. Even if I threw the ball down past half court, at least we got a pass there. We couldn't do that. That's how bad it was. And it was awakening to me, like, I don't ever want to feel like this again. I don't ever want to be like this. So what do I got to do to change that? So it doesn't happen. But I didn't blame the coach. I didn't blame anybody else. This was on us. We didn't come ready to play. One thing that they were better athletically than us, but they outworked us too. Yeah, and that should never happen. And I tell everybody that should never happen. You can always outwork somebody. Even if they're more athletic and they beat you that way, I can accept, as long as you outwork them. Sometimes, skill just takes over. But you're right. I just don't see that failure or allowing somebody to fail and then showing it. I mean, how many leagues up in New York? I mean, I know there's a lot down here. They don't keep score anymore. Yeah. There's no score. And I'm just like, I understand what you're trying to get across, but you're not teaching them anything for life. There are winners and losers. You and I go for the same job. Say we went for the Yankees job, right? Strength coach, right? Yeah. Whatever they pay, let's say it was $1 million they're paying you, right? And this is the last job. And it's coming down to you and I. Guess what? One of us is going to win. The other one's going to lose out. So that means, guess what? Then you probably might have to go back down and work, a minimum wage job or whatever. Yeah. We don't teach that. And I think that's a disappointment and a disservice to this youth of society that has so much to offer, but we're dumbing it down. We're making it too easy. Yeah. Like you said, the grit and the toughness is missing. with a lot of kids. So I think we need to do a better job there.
Yeah. And I always think about like, what is it that people could be doing on a day-to-day basis? And when I say people, I believe all of this starts at home.
Yeah.
And if you're a checked out parent, you can't expect your kid to rise. You gotta be checked in, but not even, but then you can't even be too checked in. Cause if you're too checked in and you start squeezing them, then it's a whole nother situation.
Yep. No, I agree. I think we have the two sides of the spectrum. You have that one that's way overdone, way overdone. They almost live through their kids. And the other ones are like, all right, whatever, Johnny. Oh, you're on YouTube again. No big deal. Okay, the TV's watching you. It's no big deal. And I think you have that. You have to find the happy medium. And parenting's hard. Parenting's really hard. It might be one of the hardest things ever. At least in my opinion, it's one of the hardest things. It's hard to try to find that balance where you're trying not to cross the line because you're trying to help your kid get better, but you also don't want to put too much pressure on them, but you also want to make it too easy. And I think that's the problem. A lot of people don't know where to go with that. And I think parents, if there was a course on that, that would probably be a best-selling course.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because I think the parents are the most confused in how hard they push a kid, especially if a kid's like on that bubble. Do I really like this? Is this really a passion of mine? Or is it just something I like to do with, because I like to get out, be with my friends and things like that. And you're right. I think the home life is what's missing. Yeah. And we have missing parents on either side of the spectrum.
Yeah. And with that, what I like to say is just a couple things. It's like, when it comes to the parenting side, number one, everything starts with for me, expectations, teaching the kids the basics, right? Hey, when we're at a table, phones away, we engage in dialogue, we talk, we converse and communicate about what's happening in real time.
Yes.
Anything that gets in the way of that conversation has to be reduced and eliminated. So now as a parent, you could start building the values and the character and the expectations of your kids collectively. And I believe too, it's, hey, as a family, what do we stand for? I don't care what they stand for, but what do we stand for? And that for me is always, that's the origin of success in any family tree and line.
Yeah, I agree. We just had that with my oldest daughter. My wife did. She's like, well, my friend Susie or whatever gets to stay up till this time. And I'm like, wow, that's great for Susie. I don't care what Susie gets to stay up to. Her parents can do whatever they want. This is what time you go to bed, and this is what time I expect you to be in bed. My wife lays down the law. She's phenomenal with that stuff. But you're right. I think it's an expectation, and then what you stand for. And I think if you don't set them early enough, I think then you have a harder time as time moves on, because then the kids get their own thought process, which is phenomenal. You want them to have their own thinking process, but then it gets out of control, and you want to make sure that you have it in control. Where hey, listen, while you live under my roof, my father always said it. These are my rules. You know what I mean? When you get old enough and you want to move the heck on out, you can come up with any rules you want. They're on you, And I think that holds true, but I don't know how much it holds true with everybody. I think everybody says it, but I don't know how well it holds true with all the kids that I see at least coming in here. The way they sometimes call their parents to pick them up. The one, I'll never forget the one. It was probably 6 years ago. Kid calls up. He was done. He said, "I'm done. Come and get me." Hung up the phone. I'm like, "Who were you just talking to?" Thought it was his brother. Shouldn't talk to his brother like that. He said, "Oh, I told my mom." I said, "Oh, that's how you talk to your mother."
Right.
It's on the mother for allowing it, but I said, "Come here, you're going to call her back. You're going to say, 'Mom, how are you today? Would you mind picking me up? I know you're busy, but would you mind picking me up?'" Then when she says yes, then you say thank you. When she comes and picks you up, then you say thank you again when you get out of the car. Yeah. I said, it's not hard to do. I said, respect the mom or the dad, whoever's taking care of you at the time, grandma or grandpa, and thank them for what they do for you. Because they don't have to. There's no rules, in the parenting guidebook. Yeah. You have to do that. But you're right. Expectations are a big thing. It's on each individual, the parents, to set those expectations.
See, but that's an element of coaching that you put forward into that kid.
Yeah.
And that's, I see a lot of coaches today. I want to just switch to the coaching side a bit. I see so many coaches that it's all about them.
Yeah.
Like coaching is now this sort of sexy lifestyle profession that many choose. And like, they don't want to do the early mornings. They don't want to do the late nights and the weekends. But like, they want to tell people, hey, I'm a coach.
Yeah.
but they're forgetting that the number one duty and job is to develop that talent. And I believe physically, uh, emotionally, and socially as well. It's a full sort of, you know, three-pronged commitment that you're making.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think if you're not in it for those reasons that you just mentioned, then you're in it for the wrong reason. You're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, because you're not
Yeah.
only harming yourself. You know, if you make yourself feel better, that's great, but you're harming the other individuals. And these are the youth that are supposed to, you know, be our future. And if we're not training them or developing them correctly, we're definitely some deep trouble. You know, when
Yeah.
you were older, you know, we're some deep trouble.
Oh yeah, no, totally. But I see it even in other coaching professions, like, you know, you have nutritional coaching, you have life coaching, you have all these different, you know, coaching certifications that are showing themselves. And I see a lot of people, they'll leave their corporate job that they hated, and they'll say, you know what, I'm going to become a coach. And they become just really like these transmitters of regurgitated information, and they always forget the person on the other side. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's great that you're knowledgeable and very intelligent. There's people that are far more intelligent and knowledgeable than I am.
Yeah.
But I will, you know, I'll coach you under the rug, because it always has to start with your people. It always starts with people. It starts with the athlete first.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And I think this profession, you know, the strength profession, the coaching profession, has become the norm in the last 5 years. You know, like you said, everybody wants to be in it because they think, I don't know if it's a glamorous or they think it's easy, but
Yeah.
it's not easy. Not easy if you do it right. You know what I mean? Because you put tons of time in. How many hours a day do you sit there, do your research, do this, make sure this person's on this. That's effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not, I just wake up and I go do my 2 hours of coaching. That's the easy part. You know, if you had a team, that's the easy part. It's the preparation. And then
Yeah.
when he gets sick or he gets hurt, are you the one checking on him? That's all the stuff that nobody looks at. You know,
That
and
it's
that's
all those, yeah, it's all those little things. It's like, you know, sometimes, you know, my phone will go off 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And my wife will say, can you put it away? And I said, listen, you know, this is a very different career path. You know, when somebody is reaching out to you, it's because they have a need.
yes.
And it's oftentimes what you've committed to is helping them with their need and helping them to overcome.
Yeah.
So it's a tough career path to just put a time limit on it, you know?
No, I agree. And that's the hard part. You know, it's a lot of time doing it correctly. And it's easy just to let it go, let it slip, and just say I'm a coach and then not put the time in.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, you know, the reward is great. I mean, you look at your followers, look at the people that, you know, rely on you, that, you know, they do the things they need to do. And then you see the other ones, you know, who were in it for themselves, they eventually fall off. And then you see them back in corporate America, which is fine if that's what you want to be, you know, 2 to 3 years from now, because they thought it was going to be an easy thing, but it's not. And I think that's one of the, you know, the things that, you brought up there. It's tough. You know, life is tough in all aspects of everything we do. And coaching is just another tough job. You almost have to be another parent.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you have the youth, it's another parent or another sibling or another, you know, best friend to some of these people who are looking for somebody. Because
Yeah.
I always say right now, we're in a society that we think we have 700 friends. And really, when you break it down, we probably have less friends than when you and I were growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Friends were always outside. You know what I mean? We ran around, you know, we tackled each other, we beat the crap out of each other, had fun. This society doesn't do that, but we think we have more friends. And I'm like, you have more friends on social media, but how many of us would go to war with you? Like I can still go back to my young days, you know, youth. There's probably 10 kids I could say they would have gone to war with us. You know, if somebody was never picking on us, we'd all get into it. You know, I don't know if that would be the same anymore.
Nah, I don't think it would be. I think it's different times. You know, everything feels a bit different. You know, that I just think too, there's just so much going on, and we have so much input being thrown at us that, you know, oftentimes, like, you know, when I'm around folks in their, let's say their 80s, right? You know, I'll go see my wife's grandmother. She's perfectly content in her simple house, you know, keeping life, you know, radio and listening to music and taking life in, but not managing 3 to 5 things at one time. And that's, I think we're so split today that it's difficult to just enjoy, you know, people say, be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Well, my feet are here, but my head is there. Part of my head's over here. And people struggle with that.
Yeah, like we have so much information being inundated at us all day long. I mean, just look at the internet, stuff you can look up, things that, if I want to look stuff up, I tell the kids back in the day, I want to learn more about strength and conditioning. Either have a magazine, I'd have to pick up a phone and call somebody, or I'd have to drive to a conference that was maybe 5, 6, 7 hours away. So there were the ways, or drive to meet this coach in this, area.
Yeah, and watch them coach for a couple hours or a couple days, or drive there every week to watch them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a different time. And like it's just so much more being inputted, and I wonder, is that doing more damage to these young kids, as they get older, because their heads have to go so many different ways. I know how much harder it is on me compared to when I look back to youth compared to now. I know things get more difficult as you get older, but man, just the amount of information.
I agree with you. I would say for me personally, it's more difficult now than ever before. And what I find is that I'm always going back to my old references. I'm always going back to, my old learning styles, like you just mentioned. Hey, who can I call? How could we take 40 minutes and just talk about this stuff to ground us and realize that there's a lot of crap going on, but with this exchange and just reaffirming, the basics, that's where everything is really built on and off of.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think just getting back to basics, and it goes back to all of life, when I talk about athletics, the basic movement patterns, the basic things of, are they running properly? Are they moving properly? Are they doing all these things? Instead of jumping so far advanced, if we just brought stuff back a little bit, and we all could, it's not hard. It's just we have to have people in the same corner. You know what I mean? And I could do it, and then they go home and they're inundated with 10,000 different things. And that's the hardest part. I always say coaching for me, because it's such a passion, the same thing for you probably, you love it. You do it. You just do it because you love it. It's the harder part is when they leave you.
Yeah.
Don't know what they're getting, what kind of information they're getting, what their buddy's saying with the teacher, coach, all this kind of stuff. And that's where it usually gets the more difficult part.
Yeah.
That's the struggle.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. That's why I always say, I always tell anybody I work with, I said, listen, I'm your coach for life. Yeah. We made a commitment to one another. So, I may not hear from you for a few years, but down the line, if you need something, just know that the bat phone is still available to you. Just make sure you use it. Don't be scared.
Yeah, I think that's a key. And I think they have somebody like that they can rely on. I think that helps out. You know what I mean? Because I've never seen so many kids with so many different struggles nowadays.
Yeah.
With depression and, the anxiety so high and stuff like that. And it kind of, disturbs me a little bit, because what's that going to be in the future?
Yeah. I think this is the source, man. I really do. I mean, the mind has got to renew itself, and it has to become quiet, and it has to experience the peace.
Yeah.
And if just, again, how much input can you take in? I mean, it's like, I look at the brain and the mind much like a sponge. A sponge can only hold so much water before it begins to either break or drip, and just, I'm at capacity. And if you keep working at capacity and holding at capacity over time, you become useless.
Yes.
And you're like a full sponge.
Yeah. No, you're right. 100%. I think that's a perfect analogy of what is going on with a lot of these kids.
And it's scary.
Yeah, it is. You know what I mean? When I read the reports, lately of how high the suicide's up this year alone, and then the anxiety of these kids on medication for depression and stuff. I'm like, man, you guys are depressed? I said, you guys are living in the greatest society ever. You know what I mean? The greatest country this world's ever seen, and you guys are depressed.
Yeah.
Wow, what have we done to do that? I guarantee you bring a kid over from, somewhere in Africa or even Central America, bring them up here.
Yeah.
Dude, they would think they were in heaven, what we have going on here. And yet these kids are depressed, and I'm just like, man. Wow.
Yeah. And again, just going full circle to how we started, how much of the depression is because of kids just not doing anything. I know myself, if I sit home for a few days, I had a cold last week. Today was my first day back in the gym, pumping the iron. I was ready to lose my mind the past few days. So I always say you can cure a lot of depression underneath the bench press bar.
You are exactly right. But you're right. I mean, but with these kids, I don't know. I mean, I talk to them, and do they enjoy just sitting at home? Some of the kids weren't bothered by the whole shutdown that happened, back in whatever, March, April and stuff like that. Some of them, they were like, because
Free pass.
they're on this kind of stuff all day long. So I'm just like, man, I would have gone insane.
Yeah.
My parents would have thrown me out the house, me
Yep.
and my brothers, because we would have been, off the walls. So I hope I'm wrong, in that part, because I think kids should always be outside as much as they possibly can, running,
Yeah.
enjoying life and feeling, exploring that way, learning that way, without a parent telling them, well, you need to go here, you need to go here. Do it on your own. Learn that way, because they're the greatest experience ever. I'm hoping that kids, realize that, and this was hopefully a wake-up call this year, that they get back to that point. Hopefully parents, allow them back out and do those things that we used to do, just acting crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Just, sometimes just sort of taking the protective gloves off and taking their protection away and letting them go is really the best way to see them fly.
Yeah. My parents used to go all the time. We were in a 5-8 mile radius around our house.
Yeah.
And we went there all summer long, playing with the kids around the neighborhood, went here, and just checked in when we needed to. And that was it. We learned a hell of a lot during that time.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot.
And we're saying this, but we're not a bunch of old guys either.
No, not at all.
It's not
even that long ago.
That's what I was just going to say. It just shows you how fast everything changed. And I believe, I also believe in the renegade parent that says, hey, you know what? That's great. But here's how I'm going to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. Yeah. And that's cool. Embrace it. Yeah,
I agree. I think each person has to find their own mark in life.
Yeah.
I just hope that we can get past the situation of, all these kids feeling depressed and upset about certain things and those because like I said, I hate to see kids that come into me, having it down. I understand we have down days, but when your life is that far down, it's pretty difficult, especially young kids.
Yeah. And that's, again, just what I say to parents and what you do as a great coach is build them up.
Yep.
Build them up. We don't know if kids are being built up at home. Probably not. Busy parents, checked out parents, like we said, phone indulging parents, they sometimes forget the responsibility of who's at home. Yep. And I just believe the best gift a coach can give somebody outside of, again, helping them with their speed, strength, power, skill acquisition is making them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
In a real way, and not just, hey, you're doing great, Johnny. Good job. Like challenge them and reward them with your words after they do well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's what we need to do as coaches, as older adults. We need to make sure that, hey, we're building the kids up, but we're making them earn that. We're making them earn each step going up. We're not just giving it to them and not doing it for them. Because I think far too often I see the people do stuff for the youth. Don't do it. Let them learn. Let them fail. That's cool. Failure's great as long as you learn from it. Yeah. We just got to stop that. Well, nobody should fail stuff. No, nobody should fail, because you're going to fail in life many more times than you ever succeed. And you look at the baseball teams you work. How many times did the Yankees lose? They failed during those games. How many times did people get in slumps? They failed during that time. Gordon talks about his failure all the time. I missed so many shots. I missed this many game-winning shots. I failed over and over, but that's why I'm successful.
Yep.
That's a prime commercial what every single parent should take with them and give to their kids. This is what you should do. You will fail. That's all right. What did you learn from that? And that's how